Final Fantasy is a series that feels like it wants to reinvent what it means to be a JRPG with each of its releases. The series started with a classic turn-based JRPG battle system, and over the years, Square has implemented slight changes and updates to the game's mechanics until eventually just becoming an outright real-time action game. A lot of people really don't like when Square changes up the formula with their games, and instead want Final Fantasy to stay more in line with what put it on the map in the first place. Personally, I can't help but have respect for Square. Every entry after Final Fantasy X have all been pretty different. I think changing and evolving is better than just staying the same forever, but I do get where people are coming from. Longing for the days of a classic turn-based RPG with the name Final Fantasy sounds amazing. And Square actually still does make those games, but nowadays they're usually just side games and spin-offs. Don't get me wrong, those games are awesome, but it would be great to see a mainline Final Fantasy title go back to its roots. In today's video, I'm going to be talking about what I'd like to see Square do for Final Fantasy XVI's gameplay and story. Yeah, this is one of those videos. It's sort of like a wishlist video. This should be fun though, because we can all have a discussion about what we'd like to see for the next game and give our own ideas. But anyway, let's just jump right into this video. So I just want to get this out of the way right now. I would love if FF16 was a turn-based JRPG, but I really don't think that'll happen because Final Fantasy XV sold really well. I think Square is just going to follow the success of 15's real-time battle system, at least for their mainline FF games. It's weird because a game like Persona 5 also did really well, and that game uses a more traditional turn-based combat style, so you'd think that'd be proof enough for Square to maybe go back and revisit a more classic formula for their next game. I mean, a majority of the fans want that anyway, because FF15's combat was poorly received by a lot of people for either being too simple or too hectic. I happen to love it though. But even with all of that said, I think Square could still pull off a good real-time battle system and please fans of JRPGs and action games. Recently, I've been playing Ni no Kuni 2. This game is a JRPG that uses a real-time battle system, which includes melee attack combos, ranged attacks, and magic attacks. Each of your party members have their own movesets and play differently from one another. Overall, it's a lot of fun and surprisingly deep with its combat. When you're not in combat, the game is made up of small to medium-sized open-ended areas including dungeons, towns, and cities, and all of these are connected by a bigger overworld. And in the overworld, your party even turns into little chibi characters to represent how small you are in this big world. You guys see what I'm getting at, right? Every time I played this game and got to a new battle or a new area of the world, I would always find myself thinking, wow, this is like a Final Fantasy game if it had real-time combat. And then I remember that we actually already got that with FF15. I really love Ni no Kuni 2's combat. Unlike FF15 where you just hold the attack button down to do a combo, you actually chain light and heavy attacks together to form the combos. It actually feels like a real hack and slash combat system. I don't know what it is about pressing buttons over and over again. It just feels way more satisfying than holding down a button. I think Ni no Kuni 2's gameplay would apply to a Final Fantasy world really well. I would love if Square Enix could make a game like this in the future, with their own signature style and touches, and also that Square Enix budget. Like, just imagine an Amano or Nomura designed character in this type of battle system. It would be so sick. I'm sort of gushing at this idea because I think it would be so awesome and it would serve Final Fantasy fans and fans of action games. Other than the battle system, I hope to see proper airships make a return. A flying car is not an airship, it's just a flying car. I'd love to have an airship that actually has interesting people on it that you can talk to, and has shops and living quarters, and just things that liven up the world and give more character to the lore of the game. I feel like every Final Fantasy game after 10 was lacking in the airship department, and it'd be great to see them come back in full force. I'm not sure if Square would even make a disconnected overworld or if I'd even want one. I think a more open environment would be better, but not like an open world game, if that makes sense. After FF15, I really don't think Square should focus all of their attention and effort creating an amazingly detailed open world. Like, that's great and all, but if there's not enough story within your world, or most of the side characters aren't interesting, that's gonna turn a lot of players off from exploring. I know a bunch of people who didn't even play most of the side quests in 15, because the ones they did play were so boring that they thought the rest of the side quests would be the same. And for the most part, each side quest in 15, they're just the same old fetch quests for uninteresting characters over and over again. Hopefully Square can sort out their side quests and world design for the next game. FF12 has a great world, and it's really big and it didn't feel overwhelming overwhelming at all. It was super fun to explore and it was interconnected, albeit with load times like every 5 minutes. But you know, I'm patient. I would put up with that. Just take your time, Square. I love you guys a lot. Another thing I'd like to see return in 16 is the job system. If you guys watched my Zodiac Age video, you'll know that I really love the job systems in older Final Fantasy games. It's a chance to make every character in your party feel unique and give them a specific purpose in battle. And I would love if they did it like FF10-2's jobs, where the more you use a job on a certain character, the more it levels up. Oh, and one more thing, mini-games. I love mini-games. Like I said before with the airships, I really want Square to add things to this game that make sense within the world that the game takes place. And minigames are a great way to do that. Square has done it before with fishing, blitzball, chocobo races, and triple triad. All of these small diversions give a sense of culture and diversity within these worlds. Like, these activities actually feel like what the normal people are spending their free time doing. It just adds a lot more to the world, and it makes me happy. So now that I've talked about what kind of gameplay mechanics I want, let's talk about what could possibly happen for FF16's story. Side note, did you guys notice that Ni no Kuni 2 is a game about a young king who loses his home and has to go on a long adventure to get it back? It's just like FF15, but with more polished gameplay. I love 15, I'm just making a goof. Anyway, if you guys didn't know, I really love the stories in video games. I think it's amazing seeing a team of people create these incredible interactive worlds for players to explore, and seeing how they tie everything you do in the game together to make sense in a narrative-driven way. It's one of the main reasons why I never spoil anything, because I think that's really lame when people do that. So back in 2012 at E3, Square Enix showed off a tech demo trailer called Agni's Philosophy. Agni's Philosophy ran on the Luminous engine and is basically showing what the engine is capable of, while also showing us what a future Final Fantasy game could look like. Now obviously this was before FF15 came out, and we've actually heard stories about how difficult it was to work with the Luminous engine on 15. Although recently, director of Final Fantasy 15, Hajime Tabata, now has his own studio within Square Enix called Luminous Productions. But I'll talk a little bit more about that in a minute. At the start of the trailer, we see what looks like mages performing a summoning ritual, until a group of men show up guns blazing to stop the ritual. Within the chaos, one of the mages pulls off her hood. It's our title character, Agni. She straight up uses a Thundera-type spell on a group of gunmen before escaping with the summoning crystal given to her by her dying Grandmaster. As Agni runs away from the gunmen, the camera cuts to a man injecting a caged hyena with some sort of enhancing drug. The hyena mutates and begins chasing Agni. Then we see my favorite part of the trailer. Agni grabs a bottle of soda and literally turns it into a potion, healing her from her gunshot wound she sustained earlier in battle. The hyena eventually catches up to Agni, pinning her to the ground. Agni begins chanting to the crystal she's holding, completing the summoning ritual from earlier. We then see a giant dragon-like creature pour out of the temple from the beginning of the trailer. The dragon saves Agni in the nick of time, and the two fly off together as the camera reveals a massive, futuristic-looking city. Everything about this trailer is very Final Fantasy. Mages, magical spells, summoning, technology versus magic, it's all here. And we actually have a main character, a world, and a conflict to follow. I think a lot of people would dig this concept for FF16. I mean, I even asked my own followers how they felt about Agni and if they'd want to play as her, and the overwhelming majority said yes. There were also a few comments on my post saying that they wouldn't want to play as her because she seemed like a magic-based character. The only thing I could say to that, and this is obviously just part of my gameplay wishlist from before, is that maybe they could include a job system where you can customize Agni's playstyle and make her either melee-focused or magic-focused, or they can always do character switching during battles. That way you can choose a character that has a playstyle you like more, just like Ni no Kuni 2. I can easily see Agni going on a grand adventure through this beautiful-looking world. I imagine her running into other members of her mage group that survived the temple attack and becoming party members. Another great thing about this is that Agni is female. I remember a lot of people getting really upset at FF15 for not having any permanent female party members. This choice of character would appeal to a lot of people, and yeah, why not have a cool playable female character again? Final Fantasy already has some of the best women in gaming, and why not add some more? Agni did show up one more time after this initial trailer, in another tech demo called Witch Chapter 0 Cry. And we don't learn much from this trailer at all. It is purely just a tech demo to show how pretty the graphics are. Still really cool, but you know, not as cool as the first trailer. So all of this brings me to what I mentioned before, Hajime Tabata's new studio, Luminous Productions. A few weeks ago, we learned that Square opened up this new studio that would be focusing on making new AAA games for the company. Agni runs on the Luminous engine, so it is possible that Agni's philosophy could be the next game Luminous is working on. And it's also possible that Agni's philosophy could be a code name for FF16. Using a code name does happen a lot in the video game industry. FF15 was called Project Black before we knew it as 15, so it's not out of the realm of possibility for this title. Even if this trailer doesn't turn out to be 16, I hope they use all of this stuff for something. It would seem like a waste if they didn't use any of these characters or assets in the future. Even if it was just for a side game, I'd still be hyped about it because it looks really cool. Agni's philosophy paired with a battle system like Ni no Kuni 2's would be super cool and very inviting for a variety of players. A game that feels like a classic Final Fantasy, with all of the original staples like airships, minigames, and interesting characters and environments, combined with a more modern hack-and-slash fighting system sounds amazing. I know I'll catch some heat for not saying I want classic turn-based back, but the way Square is making their games, it seems like they don't want to go back. Is Square gonna use anything from my wishlist? Probably not. I just think that it isn't impossible to make a good hack-and-slash game out of Final Fantasy. I mean, they've done great action games already, with titles like Nier Automata and the Kingdom Hearts games. Why not bring on a team like Platinum to handle the combat of 16? I think they've more than proved themselves with Automata. But who knows, maybe I'm completely wrong about them not wanting to go back to turn-based. Hell, if they did go back, I'd be so pumped for it. Just imagine a new Final Fantasy game that played like either FF10 or FF7, but with brand new graphics and a new story. Now that would be a dream come true. Still, I think it's more likely that they'll follow the success of 15's real-time combat. Agni's philosophy still seems like a great base for them to build off of. Like I said before, they already have so much in that concept, and I still think that it's possible that that trailer will become something in the future. Whatever it is, I welcome it with open arms. Honestly, I just want to play something new.